If you are planning a trip to Granada, chances are the Alhambra is already at the top of your list, and for good reason. It's one of the most breathtaking monuments in Europe and also one of the most visited. But here's the catch. Visiting the Alhambra isn't as simple as buying a ticket and showing up. With strict entry times, different ticket types, and a vast layered layout, it's surprisingly easy to get confused, or worse, to miss some of the most important parts of the site. We've visited the Alhambra many times over the years, and with each trip we've learned a little more about how to make the most of the experience. In this video we are sharing insider tips based on that first-hand knowledge. From choosing the right ticket and understanding the layout, to how to get there, how much time you will need, and even a suggested itinerary to help you navigate the site with ease. If you are heading to the Alhambra, this video will help you do it right and avoid the common mistakes that trip up so many first-time visitors. Hola, ¿qué tal? Hello and welcome to the channel where we want you to be happier traveling through the Iberian Peninsula with the help of our self-guided walking tours. Let's start with something simple but surprisingly useful. How to pronounce the name of the monument the way we locals do. In Spanish, the letter H is silent. You don't pronounce it at all. So while in English it's common to hear versions like Alhambra or even Alhambra, the pronunciation in Spanish is Alhambra with no H sound at all. It might seem like a small detail, but saying it the local way not only shows respect for the culture, it can also help you be better understood when asking for directions, buying tickets, or having a friendly chat with someone in Granada. Let's place the Alhambra on the map. It's located in the city of Granada in the Andalusia region of southern Spain. The monument sits high on Sabica Hill, to the left of the Darro River, directly facing the historic Albaicin neighborhood. The elevated position is no accident. It was chosen for both its strategic value and symbolic power. Writers in the past described the Alhambra as a stranded ship on a hill, and it is a fitting image. What you will find here isn't a single building, but a sprawling, layered complex shaped by centuries of construction, expansion, and change, right up to the modern era. Understanding that layered history is key to making sense of what you are about to explore. So before we dive into the itinerary, let's break down how the Alhambra is organized. The Alhambra complex is vast, so there are a few key places you'll want to be familiar with before your visit. We'll keep it practical here. You'll learn plenty of historical detail on site or with an audio guide. What you are about to visit is a truly exceptional place. In 1984, UNESCO declared the Alhambra a World Heritage Site, recognizing it as a remarkable testament to Muslim Spain between the 13th and 15th centuries, and the finest surviving example of the Nasrid art. The Nasrids, or Nazaríes in Spanish, a useful word to remember, were the last Muslim dynasty to rule Granada. No, although most people refer to the entire monument simply as the Alhambra, it actually includes two historically distinct areas. The Alhambra proper, a fortified palace city used by the Nasrid rulers, and the Generalife, a peaceful summer state with gardens and a palace located on a neighboring hill. They were conceived as separate entities, but today you will visit both, often referred together as La Alhambra y el Generalife. Let's stay with a map to highlight some of the key locations you should recognize before your visit. The main entrance and ticket office near one of the gates, the Generalife with its palace and gardens, the Parador de Granada, a historic hotel inside the complex, the Baño de la Mezquita, or the Old Mosque Baths, the Palace of Charles V, built during the Christian period, the Alcazaba, the fortress of the complex, and the crown jewel, the Palacios Nazaríes, or Nasrid Palaces. These are the core areas you will explore. We'll walk through all of them step by step in the suggested itinerary coming up next. So here's our proposed itinerary through the Alhambra. It is based on multiple visits over the years and in general follows the official route suggested by the monument, though we've made a few small tweaks to improve the experience. You will begin at the main entrance where your ticket will be scanned. Be sure to have your official ID ready. You'll be asked to show it. We'll explain everything about tickets and access later in the video. We recommend starting with the Generalife. Why? Because it is the part of the complex farthest from the Alhambra's core. Visiting it first saves you from doubling back later. That's not to say it's any less important, on the contrary. It is a serene and beautiful place well worth your full attention. As you make your way toward the Generalife Gardens, you will walk alongside the Alhambra's outer walls, which will rise to your left. When you reach the gardens, continue forward and take your time to enjoy the setting. The appearance of the garden changes with the seasons, reaching their peak in spring. Water is ever present, a key element in Islamic garden design. As you go, the views of the Alhambra itself become more and more spectacular. Soon you will reach the Palacio del Generalife, the Generalife Palace. This wasn't a formal seat of power, it was designed as a retreat for the sultans, a peaceful escape from court life. While its decoration is more restrained than what you will see later in the Nasrid Palaces, the palace has a quiet elegance that's deeply moving. The atmosphere in the patios is magical. The sound of flowing water, the scent of the flowers, the interplay of light and shadows. And from several spots you will enjoy stunning views back toward the Alhambra, perched on its hill. It is easy to lose track of time here. As you leave the palace, make sure not to miss the Escalera del Agua or water stairway, a 4-flight staircase where water flows down carved channels in the handrails. Each section is broken by circular landings, each with a small fountain. It is a brilliant mix of engineering and aesthetic refinement. Pure Nasrid genius. The exit from the Generalife follows a different path than the one you entered. Follow the signs towards the Alhambra and the Nasrid Palaces. You will cross a small bridge and go through an opening in the Alhambra's wall. After around 10 minutes, you will arrive at a ticket checkpoint for visitors entering the Generalife. You will now be in the Alhambra proper. Let's bring up the map to review this first part of the itinerary visually. As we mentioned earlier, it's hard to get lost here. There are signs everywhere and the flow of visitors is designed to guide you forward. You'll go in one way and return through another. And in the case of the Generalife Gardens, that return path is a truly delightful one. So we are now entering the Alhambra proper. As soon as you pass the ticket control booth, look to your right, you will see the entrance to the Parador de Granada, a luxury hotel located within the monument complex. But for now, keep walking to your left, following the signs toward the Palace of Charles V. Before you reach the palace, make a quick stop at the Baño de la Mezquita, the old mosque baths just off to your right. These modest but historically significant baths were once part of the mosque that stood nearby. The space is small and the visit won't take more than a few minutes, but it's worth stepping in. Entry is free, no ticket is required. After the visit, continue along the Calle Real de la Alhambra, the main path leading to the Palace of Charles V. Now we've reached the core of the Alhambra, where there's a lot to see and some key things to keep in mind. This central area includes the Alcazaba, the fortress and military area of the Alhambra, the Palacio de Carlos V or Palace of Charles V, home to the Alhambra Museum and the Museum of Fine Arts, the Palacios Nazaríes or Nasrid Palaces, the true architectural highlight of the entire complex, and El Partal, a tranquil area with gardens and a palace. A quick note about access. You will need a valid ticket to enter the Alcazaba, the Nasrid Palaces and the Partal. These are the heart of the paid monument experience. However, entry to the Palace of Charles V and the surrounding areas is free. What you do next will depend on your assigned entry time to the Nasrid Palaces. We've always felt it makes sense to leave the palaces for the end of your visit. They are the most breathtaking part of the entire complex. But there's no rule saying you have to do it that way. You can choose whichever available time slot works best for you. What follows is our suggested route based on the idea of saving the palaces for last. We recommend visiting the Alcazaba before the Palace of Charles V, or if your schedule requires, the other way around. Palace first, then Fortress. Once you are done with both, you will head to the entry point of the Nasrid Palaces. After visiting them, you will exit into the Partal and its gardens, a beautiful final stretch before leaving the Alhambra complex. But let's look more closely at the Alcazaba first. Make your way to its entrance. Your ticket will be checked right outside the fortress. You will enter through a narrow gap between massive defensive walls. Originally, the Alcazaba was the residence of the Nasrid rulers. But when the Nasrid palaces were later built and the royal court moved there, the Alcazaba took on a strictly military role. Inside the mighty ramparts, you'll walk through the areas once occupied by the Sultan's guard. Don't miss the two spectacular viewpoints overlooking the Albaicin neighborhood. They are among the best in the entire Alhambra. Eventually, you will reach the Torre de la Vela, or the Tower of the Sail, an iconic symbol of Granada. When the Catholic monarchs conquered the city in 1492, they raised their flag atop this tower and placed a bell that still rings on special occasions. In fact, the tower is so important that it appears on Granada's coat of arms. You will exit the Alcazaba through a lovely stretch of greenery known as the Jardín de los Adarbes, a peaceful and scenic end to this part of the visit. Let's pull up the map to highlight the key features of the Alcazaba: the fortress walls, the lookout points, the tower climb, and the garden exit. Now it is time to explore one of the most striking structures in the entire complex, the Palace of Charles V, Palacio de Carlos V in Spanish. As mentioned earlier, entry to this building is completely free, no ticket is required. Despite its location inside the Alhambra, this is not a Muslim-era structure. In fact, it was commissioned by Emperor Charles V, King of Spain as Charles I, who used the Nasrid Palaces as his summer residence. While he admired their beauty, the palaces lacked the modern comfort his family expected. He needed a new residence that reflected both imperial grandeur and Christian dominance. So he ordered a new palace to be built right next to the Nasrid Palaces. This location was chosen very deliberately. It allowed him to enjoy the proximity of the Nasrid marvels, but it also made a statement: the power of the Christian Empire rising alongside and above the legacy of Islamic rule. For this symbolic comparison to work, the Nasrid palaces had to remain untouched, preserved as a contrast. You will notice that only two of the palace's facades, the ones not facing the Nasrid palaces, you can see them now on the images, were ever completed. The other two remain unfinished to this day. The palace was designed by architect Pedro Machuca and construction began in 1527. But it took centuries to complete. The finishing touches didn't come until the 20th century. Despite that, the design was groundbreaking from the start. The palace is square on the outside, but inside you will find a perfectly circular courtyard, an avant-garde feature for Renaissance architecture and something never seen before in Spain. The circular patio is truly spectacular. A two-story colonnade surrounds it, creating a sense of symmetry, balance, and rhythm that gives the space an almost theatrical quality. The open sky above and the interplay of light and shadow across the stone surfaces evoke the grandeur of classic Roman architecture, exactly the kind of image Charles V wanted to project. As you enter the building, on the ground floor, to your right, you will find the Museum of the Alhambra, one of the most important cultural resources within the complex. The museum is entirely dedicated to Nasrid art and architecture, the legacy of the last Muslim dynasty to rule Granada. Spread over several rooms, the museum showcases artifacts recovered from the Alhambra itself, including carved stucco, painted ceramics, wooden ceilings, decorative tiles, and architectural fragments. One of the highlights is the Vase of the Gazelles, a masterpiece of Nasrid ceramic art. Despite being free to enter, many visitors skip the museum entirely, which is a real loss, as it provides essential context for everything else you will see in the Alhambra. Even a quick 1-hour visit is worth your time. Upstairs, on the upper level of the palace, you will find the Museo de Bellas Artes de Granada, the city's main fine arts museum. Its collection ranges from the late Middle Ages to the early 20th century, with a particular focus on religious art from the Renaissance and Baroque periods. Many of the works come from former monasteries and convents in Granada and include paintings, sculptures, and decorative objects created by local artists. While the collection may be more niche in appeal, the museum's setting inside this magnificent Renaissance palace gives it an added layer of architectural beauty. Admission is free for European Union residents, and there is a small fee for non-European Union visitors. While the Alhambra Museum is a clear must-see, the Fine Arts Museum is more of a bonus. It depends on your level of interest in religious art and how much time you have available. And now it's time to enter the most extraordinary part of the Alhambra complex, the Palacios Nazaríes, the Nasrid Palaces. These palaces were built by the Nasrid dynasty, the last Muslim dynasty to rule over Spain. Their reign ended in 1492, when the Catholic monarchs conquered Granada, marking the final chapter of Muslim control on the Iberian Peninsula. What we call the Nasrid Palaces today is actually a series of 3 interconnected palaces, each with a different function and distinct artistic style. As you move through these spaces, you will notice a progression in style from older, more austere forms to refined, richly ornamented architecture. The later areas also reveal some Christian influences. Of all the spaces in the Alhambra, the Nasrid Palaces are the only one where a timed entry is strictly enforced. When you purchase your ticket, you will be asked to choose a specific time slot for this part of the visit. You will join the queue for entry near the main entrance to the Palace of Charles V. We recommend getting in line at least 20 minutes before your assigned time. Don't forget to bring your official photo ID. You will be asked to show it again here. Once you enter, the visit follows a clear one-way path, making it easy to navigate. You'll begin with the Mexuar, the oldest and most modest of the 3 palaces. This was the seat of government during the Nasrid period, where ministers, the Shura, met and where the Sultan dispensed justice. While the architecture is simpler than what comes next, it sets the tone for what's to follow. From the Mexuar, you'll step into the Comares Palace, the official residence of the Sultan. The heart of this palace is the Patio de los Arrayanes, the Court of the Myrtles, one of the most iconic spaces in the entire Alhambra. It was designed to impress. A long reflective pool and precisely crafted arches all contribute to its spellbinding effect. Towering above is the Torre de Comares, the Comares Tower, the tallest structure in the Alhambra. Inside the various halls and chambers, you will see masterful examples of Nasrid design, geometric tilework, carved stucco panels, and Arabic inscriptions, all rich in symbolism and visual harmony. Next comes the Palacio de los Leones, or Palace of the Lions, the private and most intimate part of the Nasrid Palaces, built as the royal family's living quarters. Here, Nasrid architecture reaches its zenith. Everything in this palace is designed to create a multi-sensory experience. The interplay of light and shadow, the sound of flowing water, the symmetry of the spaces, and the delicate detailing of the walls and ceilings all combine to enchant the visitor. At the heart of the palace is the Patio de los Leones, the Court of the Lions, an architectural masterpiece that blends Islamic and Christian influences. The central fountain, supported by 12 marble lions, is one of the finest surviving examples of Islamic sculpture in Spain. The lions represent strength and power, while the polygonal basin above them channels water with engineering precision. From this courtyard, you will visit surrounding rooms like the Sala de los Abencerrajes and the Sala de las Dos Hermanas, each with exquisite ceiling and decorative features that have inspired architects and artists for centuries. As you exit the Nasrid Palaces, you will pass through several open terraces with spectacular views of the Albaicin neighborhood. You will also catch a glimpse of the Arab Baths, part of the original palace complex. Let's now take a look at the route through the Nasrid Palaces on the map. Entry checkpoint near the Palace of Charles V, the Mexuar, the Comares Palace, the Palace of the Lions, a brief view of the Arab Baths, and finally the exit of the palace complex. As you exit the Nasrid Palaces, you will enter the area known as El Partal. This part of the Alhambra offers a beautiful and serene end to your visit. The Partal Palace is one of the oldest surviving structures in the complex and provides a tranquil glimpse into the elegance and simplicity of Nasrid architecture. Its most striking feature is a long steel reflecting pool, set in front of a graceful portico with slender columns and a central tower. This composition creates one of the most iconic and photogenic scenes in the entire Alhambra. The surrounded gardens are equally charming, filled with seasonal flowers, manicured hedges, and small fountains arranged in harmonious geometric designs. From here, the views over the Albaicin are wild and spectacular, especially in the late afternoon light. The Partal area blends architectural beauty with peaceful landscaping, making it an ideal space to slow down, reflect, and take in the last impressions of your visit. And in the gardens of El Partal, your journey through the Alhambra comes to a quiet, memorable end. Now it is time to return to the city, and in the next tip, we'll look at how to get to and from the Alhambra with ease. As we mentioned earlier in the video, the Alhambra sits on top of a hill overlooking the city of Granada. And as the images clearly show, there is no escaping the elevation. Either you walk uphill or you take some form of transportation to get there. In this section, we'll show you how to reach the monument by public transport, and then we'll offer you 2 scenic walking routes you can take to return to the city center after your visit, unless of course you are staying near the Alhambra. Now, if you are the kind of traveler who lives for a good uphill climb, by all means go for it on foot. But here's our 2 cents. You are going to be walking a lot inside the Alhambra, so we suggest you start your day with fresh legs and take some form of transport to get to the top. There are 2 public bus lines, C30 and C32, that go directly to the Alhambra entrance. They are easy to spot, small red buses, and you can pay with a contactless bank card or a local transport card. The ride starts in the city center near Plaza de Isabel la Católica, just a short walk from the cathedral, and the trip takes around 15 minutes. These minibuses will drop you off right at the main entrance to the monument. You could also take a taxi or a rideshare. Uber operates in Granada for a bit more comfort and flexibility, especially if you are staying farther away. Now let's talk about the walk back, because downhill is a different story and Granada gives you two beautiful options. The first one is the Cuesta de Gómez. Cuesta in Spanish means slope. This is the quickest route back to the historic center. You will exit the Alhambra through the Puerta de la Justicia, follow the Cuesta de Gómez, pass through the Puerta de las Granadas, and end up in Plaza Nueva, right in the heart of the city. It is all downhill, mostly paved and shaded by the trees of the Alhambra forest, a 19th century green space filled with Mediterranean and exotic vegetation. This route is ideal if you want a quick connection to other parts of the city. The second option is the Cuesta del Rey Chico, the slope of the small king. This is the scenic route, longer and more peaceful. It begins right under the bridge that links the Generalife with the Alhambra and descends towards the Paseo de los Tristes in the Albaicin neighborhood. At first, it's a gentle, flat path through dense greenery, skimming the very base of the Alhambra's monumental walls. Then it slopes down more steeply, so what you're footing, your knees might suffer a bit. But the views of the Nasrid Palaces from below are absolutely stunning and make up for the effort. Once you reach the bottom, you will be in one of Granada's most atmospheric areas, with options to continue exploring or take a bus back to the center. And of course, if you're too tired after your visit, no worries, you can always catch the same C30 or C32 bus that brought you up earlier. Let's talk briefly about the Alhambra's opening hours. The monument is open every day of the week, Monday through Sunday, and only closes on 2 days a year, January the 1st and Christmas Day. What you are seeing on the screen now are the opening times for daytime visits, which change depending on the time of the year. These times apply regardless of the day of the week. It's Monday to Sunday. Keep in mind there are also night visits with different opening hours, but that's a separate experience entirely. We'll mention it later. So, how long should you plan for your visit to the Alhambra? Well, that's a deeply personal question. No two visitors experience the site in quite the same way. But one thing is absolutely clear, the Alhambra is vast. It's not just one monument, it's a complex of palaces, gardens, and historical spaces spread across a large area. Moving between sites takes time and each space deserves attention. You will be walking a lot. That said, we can offer a rough guide. At the very minimum, you will need 3 to 4 hours for a relatively quick visit. Anything less than that, and you are likely to miss important parts or feel rushed. If you enjoy traveling at a slower pace, taking in the details and sitting for a moment to soak up the atmosphere and the views, then 5 hours to a full day would be ideal. That kind of visit can turn your time at the Alhambra into an unforgettable experience. Whatever your pace, don't underestimate the time needed. The Alhambra rewards those who give it the time it deserves. Given the length and intensity of the visit, it's perfectly reasonable to ask what kind of services are available inside the Alhambra. Let's start with the most essential, restrooms. Because the Alhambra is a historic monument, restrooms are limited, so it's good to know where to find them in advance. There are 2 main public toilet facilities and both are free of charge. One is located next to the main entrance near the ticket office, and the other is inside the service building next to the Palace of Charles V. You will also find locker facilities called consigna in Spanish in those same 2 locations. These lockers are free for Alhambra ticket holders and are a great place to leave anything you don't want to carry during your visit. Our next tip, food and drinks, is closely related to the one we just covered on services. A visit to the Alhambra takes time. Chances are, at some point, you'll get hungry. And if you're visiting on a hot day, staying hydrated becomes essential. But because we are inside a protected monument and a UNESCO World Heritage Site, there are a few important rules you need to know. First and foremost, you are not allowed to eat within the ticketed areas of the complex. That means the Generalife and its gardens, the Alcazaba and the Nasrid Palaces. You can definitely bring a bottle of water and sip it as needed, but don't expect to sit on a bench and eat a sandwich inside those areas. It is not allowed. So, where can you eat? Let's go back to the map to look at 3 spots where eating is permitted. Right in front of the Alcazaba, just outside the Palace of Charles V, and next to the main ticket office, though this space won't be useful unless you are near the entrance. These aren't formal picnic areas and facilities are minimal, but they are designed spaces where you are allowed to have a quick bite. If you are just looking to buy a drink or a snack, there are vending machines and small stores near the Palace of Charles V, clearly marked on the map we are showing now. Now, what if you'd rather have a proper sit-down meal? There are 2 restaurants just a short walk from the main entrance. La Mimbre, set under a charming canopy of trees, great for a shady, relaxed meal. And Jardines Alberto, located in a terraced garden setting. That's where we ate on our last visit to the Alhambra, and we had a very positive experience. Jardines Alberto offers a set menu for under 20 euros, or you can order a la carte. Their specialty is local Andalusian recipes, and everything we tried was delicious. We strongly recommend making a reservation in advance. It gets busy, especially during peak visiting hours. Getting your tickets to the Alhambra is such a crucial topic and such a potential minefield that the rest of our tips will focus entirely on it. Let's start with the basics. Where should you buy your tickets? You should only buy your Alhambra tickets through the official website, which you can see now on the screen. We cannot stress this enough. Do not buy your tickets from unofficial websites or third-party resellers. The sale of Alhambra tickets has been surrounded by controversy and corruption for years, and unfortunately, scams are still common. If you purchase from an unofficial source, you risk being denied entry at the gate. It's not worth the gamble. There are only 2 legitimate exceptions to this rule. If you purchase your tickets as part of the Granada card, and we'll talk about that shortly, or if you book a guided tour through a trusted vendor. That's because the Alhambra itself doesn't offer guided tours, so those services are handled by approved third parties. But if you are buying regular tickets for an independent visit, official website only. Always. Let's take a look at the different types of tickets available. But first, a golden rule to keep in mind. Always choose a ticket that includes access to the Nasrid Palaces. Not all of them do, and missing the palaces would mean skipping the most breathtaking part of the entire monument. For most visitors, the Alhambra General ticket is the best choice. It includes the Generalife, the Alcazaba, and the Nasrid Palaces. Everything you need for a full experience. There's also the Dobla de Oro General ticket, which includes everything in the General ticket, plus a selection of other historic monuments in Granada, many of them tied to the city's Islamic past. If you are planning to explore Granada in depth, it's a great option. We talk more about those additional monuments in our Granada travel video guide, which we will mention again at the end of this video. Now, you may have seen there is a cheaper ticket called the Night Visit to the Nasrid Palaces. This one is a bit of a tricky subject. We did the night visit some years ago, after already experiencing the Alhambra several times during the day. We thought it would be interesting to see the Alhambra under a different light, literally. Well, to say it was a huge disappointment would be putting it mildly. Inside the Nasrid Palaces, it's pitch dark. The lights are extremely limited, and many of the most beautiful details, the carved ceilings, the intricate tilework, the domes, are basically invisible. The palaces are all about delicate, subtle beauty, and that's exactly what gets lost in the dark. And then there is the Patio of the Lions. When we walked into it, our first reaction was, where is the courtyard that stole our heart? We could barely see the fountain or the lions. A staff member told us the light is meant to mimic the light of a full moon night. Honestly, it doesn't come close to what you experience during the day, and to make things worse, the night visit follows a shorter route than the daytime one. You simply don't get to see everything. So our advice is simple. Only consider the night visit if you've already visited the Alhambra multiple times and are just curious, as we were, about a different atmosphere. For a first or second visit, definitely stick to the day visit. Now that you know where to buy your tickets and hopefully have a good idea of which type to choose, here's a crucial tip that can truly save your trip. Buy your Alhambra tickets as far in advance as possible. Think months, not weeks. Before you book your accommodation, your transport, secure your Alhambra tickets first. Why? Because the number of visitors inside the monument at any given time is strictly limited. The Alhambra is Spain's most visited monument, and managing visitor flow is essential. There is a relatively generous limit for visitors in the Generalife and the Alcazaba, but the Nasrid Palaces have a much stricter visitor cap due to space constraints. When you purchase your ticket, you will need to select your visit date and also choose a time slot to enter the Nasrid Palaces. While you can explore the rest of the Alhambra anytime during opening hours, the Nasrid Palaces require you to enter exactly at the time you booked. We'll explain more about this later. On our most recent visit to the Alhambra, we were shocked to see a long line of visitors at the ticket office, all without tickets. These were people who showed up hoping to buy tickets on the spot, unaware of how important it is to book in advance. Staff members had to turn them away because there were no tickets left for that day. During low season, you may find leftover tickets for the Generalife or Alcazaba, but never for the Nasrid Palaces. And honestly, making the effort to come all the way to Granada and not visit the Nasrid Palaces, that's just heartbreaking. So book early, your future self will thank you. When purchasing your Alhambra tickets, you will be asked to provide an ID number. This can be the number from your national ID card if you've got one, or your passport, but it must be a valid official document with photograph. Important, you need to carry that same ID with you on the day of your visit. It will be checked at several points, typically when you first enter the complex and again when you enter the Nasrid Palaces. This ID check is part of the Alhambra's efforts to combat fraudulent ticket sales and ensure security. If you don't have the proper ID with you, you may be denied entry, so don't forget that. The time slot you choose for visiting the Nasrid Palaces is not just a suggestion, it's a strict rule, and it is definitely enforced. If you don't arrive at the exact time printed on your ticket, you may be denied entry. To illustrate, on our last visit, while we were waiting to enter the Nasrid Palaces, 3 groups showed up at the wrong time, including one family who was 3 hours late. The system, not the member of the staff, the computer, would not allow them to enter. So to avoid any disappointment, make sure you arrive promptly at your scheduled time. It's really not that difficult and it will save you a lot of hassle. Now, the worst case scenario. You've planned your trip to Granada but didn't book your Alhambra tickets in advance, and now they are sold out. What can you do? First of all, don't panic. While there's no magic fix, here are some options to try and avoid missing out. Try first to buy the Dobla de Oro tickets. The general Alhambra tickets usually sell out first, but there might still be availability in this combined ticket, which includes other monuments as well. Buy the Granada card. This tourist pass includes Alhambra access and is sold by a private company, one of the rare exceptions to the only buy tickets on the official website rule. We cover the Granada card on our Granada travel guide video. Book a guided tour through a third-party vendor. Guided tours often have reserved spots and are another exception to the official site-only rule. We leave a link below for trusted providers. And finally, check the official website at midnight. Occasionally, unsold or returned tickets are released then. Though this doesn't happen often, it's worth trying. While none of these options guarantee success, they can be your best shot if you find yourself without a ticket. The Alhambra is truly magnificent, but as you've probably heard us say, Granada is so much more than just one monument. To help you discover all the wonders this city has to offer and to share plenty of travel tips for the perfect visit, we've created the video you see on screen now. It's the ideal companion for an unforgettable experience in our beloved Granada. We can't wait to welcome you there. See you in the next video.